Okay, so I'm putting together a door. I've got shingles, and did I just say shingles? I meant siding. I need to make some shingles. That's what I need to make. So, what do I need to do? There's a lot of different ways that we can do shingles. We can either make it so it's just like this. So this could just be duplicated and then rotated. Before I rotate it, I'm actually going to be smart about it this time and hit D to get to my pivot point, hold down V, snap it, and then move it over. You can see how that naturally gives me sort of shingles look to it. But if I want more of an old-timey look to it, so maybe it's more like old slate shingles, something like this. That's where I can get something else going on here, where if I start with a cube, and let me scale this down a little bit, and I'm going to go into my multi-cut and just holding down Control and Shift, add some points here, grab this one, pull that out. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm also going to grab the entire bottom, or let's just grab these vertices across the front of these, just pull these out as well, and maybe even scale all of the vertices on the top inwards, so that way I have a shape like this. Okay, I like that. Now, if I wanted to make shingles with this, I can sit here and Control D, move it over, Control D, move it over. It's taking forever to do that. So instead, what we could do with this is go to Edit, Duplicate, Special, and we're going to add a, let's just first say that we want this to go 9 copies. So that'll give us 10 with the original one. And we want it to translate. So the translation of this would likely be, so if I were to duplicate this and move it over, so here's the trick. Let's watch on our values what's happening here. So Control D, and then if I move this over, oh, is that right there? Let's see if we can get that to happen. So we know that the translation down on the bottom here, once we let go, it'll go away. It's going to give me a rough estimate, or not rough, but it'll actually give me a good number. So saying it wants me to go about, let's say 0.996 or 1. That's how much of a translate we want to apply to that. So let's see if that works. If we were to add a translate of 1 on our X and hit apply, there we go, that's perfect. And you'll notice anytime you move something or do a rotation on it, it will give you that value on the bottom, but it goes away as soon as you let go. So just a good way to know if you need to use that in the future, and it's not just at a 1 for us right now. That looked out pretty well. So I have this one. Nice. I'm going to duplicate this one, move it down a little bit, and move it over to get to about here. Now I'm going to take these and offset them. Okay. Now that I have this, I can duplicate it again, rotate it, or move it down, offset it a little bit, or we can keep the original one. Now it's a good idea to try and keep it so it's the same value as that. So we can also apply a duplicate special to do that as well. If it's starting to act tedious for us to get this to keep going in that direction, what we can do, or to keep making these shingles, we do this one more time. Go down, over, pull that up. What I'll do now is combine all this. So mesh, combine. Now I'm not working with all these. I can just duplicate this one, move it down, and since I had the top one be different than the bottom one, it's guaranteeing that this offset's going to keep happening. Now this is nice, and it looks pretty kind of fairy tale looking, but it's kind of very very linear and kind of gridded out. So to change that, if I select both of those and go to Mesh Separate, and I'm just going to click on a couple random ones at a time and modify Center Pivot because it's way over here. When you separate objects, they usually put their pivot point into the origin. So let's see if we can fix that. There we go. We're going to grab a couple at a time and rotate. So that way it doesn't feel so sterile. If we need to, we can raise a couple up. And so by doing this, we've now given it a much more unique and a more interesting personality to it. So this is really starting to feel less like your generic shingles that we had originally. This is pretty good. Let me just keep going with this. Okay, that's looking really a lot better. So with this, again, if we take it all mesh combine, we have shingles. I can just position this on top. And if we want to go on top of here, let's say that we start over here and we scale it down a little bit more. Okay. And now, Control D, duplicate it, and watch this. If I link it up, perfect. There's a little bit of a seam. I can fix that by just moving this over a little bit, and no one would know, especially if we separate that and rotate a couple of these pieces. So I have both of these. I'll move these over. And to get rid of those edges, that's something where we can just apply one of these things. So duplicate that and bring it over. And if we scale that up a little bit and move this over, scale that out. There we go, we fixed that. Now I know this is an N-gon, so we can easily just go to multi-cut and cut across to fix that. Do that to the top as well. But you'll notice very quickly I was able to build this piece out. Now, yes, I have a hole here. So things that we could do to get rid of that is just to build another plane, or cube, sorry. And if I grab the bottom, pull this out, and the top, pull up. And then pull this down. This is just an easy way to get rid of the fact that this thing isn't really representing actual space. It's just hovering there, and this little low poly block behind it is going to make it so it appears that there's depth in there, and it's 3D, right? It's not just a piece of paper or something like that. So there we go. It's looking better. I would have to adjust that just a little bit more to fit those shapes, but you can see how we can build that out, and within just about a half hour sitting down, we can knock out most of the types of details we would see on a house.